We are on location in central New Mexico, where BNSF trains negotiate the remote and scenic Abo Canyon. When the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe proposed building a line west of Texas into New Mexico, they would have preferred a direct route to Albuquerque. The only problem was that no such route existed through the mountains to the Rio Grande Valley. The best option was to build toward a small village around 30 miles to the south, known as Belen. This route followed an old trail along the Abo Wash. The wash became a steep and narrow canyon separating the Manzano Mountains to the north from the Los Pinos Mountains to the south. Although hard to photograph, Abo Canyon remains a scenic highlight of BNSF's Belen Cutoff, a busy section of the Southern Transcon. This eastbound stack train is entering Abo Canyon on the old number 1 track. Access to Abo Canyon is restricted, making it impossible to shoot from the ground, especially on the west end. Fortunately, there is open airspace to fly a drone, which is the only way we can bring these scenes to you. From the ground, we watch a westbound manifest train exit the canyon. It's nice to see some visitors on the head end from Norfolk Southern and the CPKC. Another westbound appears out of the canyon. BNSF 8166 brings a stack train across the Abo Wash on the newer Main 2. The new bridge includes a 1,300-foot wind fence to protect trains from heavy gusts that plague this crossing of the Abo Wash. In 1902, the Santa Fe Railway formed a subsidiary known as the Eastern Railway Company of New Mexico. It was tasked with building 268 miles of the Belen cutoff across the plains of New Mexico between the state line at Texaco and Rio Puerco, 20 miles west of Belen. By February of 1903, a temporary line had been built to the mouth of Abo Canyon. Once the heavy work began, it was said that up to 75 horse-drawn wagons were constantly en route to supply what was needed for the effort. Leaving Abo Canyon behind, the train stretches out across the Rio Grande Valley toward Belen. BNSF began building a second main line through Abo Canyon in 2008. It required a great deal of blasting to make cuts for the new track. This aerial view shows what looks like a rock quarry near the east end of the canyon. It is actually a stockpile of overburden removed during construction. The rock is crushed and sold as aggregate. BNSF 8326 leads a high-priority intermodal train east out of the canyon on the original track, now referred to as Main 1. Flying into the canyon, we spot another slow-moving eastbound, climbing the 1.25% grade. The Abo Pass Trail played an important role in the 17th and 18th centuries for traders from the eastern plains to the main Spanish trail between Mexico and Santa Fe. That trail was part of an extensive Spanish trade route between Mexico City and what is now New Mexico and Texas, known as the El Camino Real. Beans, cotton, buffalo meat, and salt were major commodities brought over the pass in trade with the Plains Indians. The importance of Abo Pass was highlighted during the American Civil War, when Abo militia were stationed here to guard the road from any hostile army from the Confederacy. Around 2 decades later, in the late 1800s, when the Santa Fe was looking for a viable route into the Rio Grande Valley with a manageable grade, this proved to be the best option. Fast forward another 150 years, and here we are with BNSF 7416 East coming through Abo Canyon on Main 1. As the train chases us through the canyon, we marvel at the amount of material that was removed during the building of the second main line. As a train exits the canyon, it passes under Highway 60, which follows the original trail through Abo Pass. As we watch the train slowly snaking through the canyon, we are reminded of a story about a band of outlaws back in 1909 called the Abo Pass Gang that would prey on slow-moving trains here. Led by Abo homesteader Frank Howe, the gang would climb aboard an eastbound, break into the cars, and throw off their merchandise. Others would load a wagon with the stolen goods and take it to their hideout. Their loot was mostly sacks of corn and dried fruit. They raided trains in Abo Canyon and murdered any who tried to stop them. Their deadly spree went on for about a year until the law began to close in. The gang fled for the Mexican border and were caught along the Rio Grande, 60 miles south of El Paso. You might say they died of lead poisoning after being surrounded by Texas Rangers. A westbound unit tank train heads down Main 2 in a meet. The next morning, we find a westbound stack train slowly moving through the shadows of the canyon after experiencing trouble with one of its engines. Having the problem resolved, it slowly continues down grade while the drumming of prime movers tells us another eastbound is climbing through the canyon. After leaving Abo Canyon, the grade continues to climb along the Abo Wash toward the summit at Mountain Air. BNSF 3867 leads a manifest train upgrade at Scholle. This heavy train consists of 121 cars and is running with distributed power in a 3x1x1 configuration. Scholle is named for German immigrant Fred Scholle, who built a ranch east of Abo Canyon in the 1880s. He stocked his ranch with 15,000 head of sheep and 2,000 head of cattle, which he trailed from Belen. When railroad surveyors were plotting the Belen cutoff, Scholle sold his land to the ATSF, and the ranch became a bustling railroad town, which lasted into the 1950s. The dramatic red of the Abo Wash contrasts well with the green juniper on the hillside above the tracks. Gliding downgrade from the summit at Mountain Air, BNSF 8990 is westbound between Abo and Scholle, with empty grain hoppers running 1x2. Let's pace the train for a while. The train glides past the crossovers at Kaiser. The trailing diesels are in dynamics as the train slowly continues westbound toward Abo Canyon. BNSF's Belen cutoff traverses an interesting portion of central and eastern New Mexico, a subject we will take a deeper dive into in the future. Until then, we hope you've enjoyed this brief look at Abo Canyon and the surrounding country to the east. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and until next time, thanks for watching.